after you had that moment where you like, I need to get my finances in order, you kind of went on a journey to increase your financial literacy because nobody had shared this stuff with you before. And you found yourself like in a quandary, like this expert says this and this expert says that. And you realize that personal finance is personal, right? So kind of walk us through that part of your journey.
Yes. When you're going online, you're hearing bloggers, podcasters, you kind of listen to some authenticity in their story because their story is their own story. There's something that happened to them that actually, impact them. Maybe they were great sales pitchers, so they were able to sell different houses, or maybe they're just good at repairing houses, so they ended up buying and flipping, or maybe they're just great at talking to different people, so they end up being podcasters. But for me, in order for me to make that level of money, I had to focus in on what made me great, what made me, I guess, inspirational to others, which is the way I use money, my know-how about taxation. So instead of doing something like Dave Ramsey would actually say, which is to pay down all your debt, I actually ended up focusing on paying down my consumer debt and also the smaller student loans. Instead of paying all of them at one time, which would probably take me maybe 15 years to do, because it's like basically like $100,000 of student loan debt. I ended up just paying the small ones, keeping the biggest one on public student loan forgiveness plan. And from that point on, maximize my 401k, maximize my IRA, and as well as maximize my HSA. So I created a new plan for myself based off even things that you guys have said all the time, making your personal finances personal for you. Other people would say that's not necessarily as logical. They'll say that the interest rates might do this and that. But at the end of the day, it didn't make me feel comfortable. It didn't really work for me. So I had to create something that really worked for people that comes from a certain background, that doesn't have a lot of inheritance, that doesn't have a lot of like financial know-how, but maximizing every little piece that we can get.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
And everybody, whatever they bring in the household, whether it be income, side hustles, whatever, their circumstance, everybody is different. And so I think that you said it best, maximize what you've been given and come up with a plan for yourselves individually. So yeah, I love that.
I think you call it your net max plan. So for those who have never heard that before, kind of walk us through the different components of that.
So instead of going about financial literacy in a way that is a little bit more abstract, not everybody's great at math. So I'm trying to get to the point where making the idea of being financially wealthy universal. It's not just something specific to a subgroup of people, but it could be for all of us. So I actually found out mathematically that if you make probably in a household of $77,000 a year, and you maximize all these different leverages as far as your 401k, trying to get that matching, that's $19,000 a year that you and your spouse could put in individually. You could put that in. You could put $6,000 per person, which is $12,000 in the end for you and your spouse, as well as $6,500 or so for family HSA. That automatically puts you in a higher bracket than the 10%. A lot of experts would love to say, hey, just put in 10% of your savings, it's gonna work out. But in truth, they're not putting in 10%. Ask them how much are they putting in, because they know it's just not gonna cut it in the next couple of years. So it's best to maximize as much of your money at all times. And at the same time, I also instruct people to prioritize the thing that they love in their own life. So for me, I don't care for brunches, but other people do. For me, I care for traveling. Other people don't. So we have to start prioritizing the things that really bring us the maximum amount of happiness in order for us to move forward. I ended up buying a home in Largo, which is not too far from Washington, D.C., basically the last metro stop. But a lot of people, they'd rather stay in D.C. paying rent of upwards of $15,000 a month. Whereas when I went to Largo, it was $550, and I had to split 2-2. I ended up buying a unit down here and also house hacking the other side to a buddy of mine that showed up as well. And we ended up just living in a great space, maximum amount of room to develop and grow. We have a fireplace. You got everything that you need. But instead of spending that $1,500 a month in DC, we ended up just spending $1,000 over here for a 2-2. It's an incredible shift of how you could use your money better. So you can actually use the excess now to either pay down debt or to travel with it. I was able to travel to Brazil twice in the last 3 years. I was also able to travel to 12 countries in 14 days this summer with my girlfriend, which is, in 5 years ago, I would never consider that as a possibility in my life.